with me. Everyone, welcome to Rhythm and Roads podcast. I'm going to be your host, Joshua Jacob. We have a very special guest, Brett Varvel. He's an actor, director, and he's also been in 30 films. He's also a two-time Emmy Award. Is that correct?
That's right.
Wow, that's impressive. Awesome, brother. Well, welcome to Rhythm and Roads podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's an honor.
I came across your film, I guess, on social media. I think it was on Facebook, and I came across Disciples in the Moonlight. And just the look of it was just very impressive. I was like, that is really cool look. It looks different. I'm like, and I looked it up and I was like, that's interesting. What happens if the Bible was illegal here in the United States? And I was like, this is an interesting film. And I'm like, I want to look this director up and I saw the trailer. I was like, that looks really cool. So yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send an email out and here we are. So
Here we are. Yeah,
here
I
we are. I'm
appreciate
all
so
like,
much.
such a blessing to have you, brother. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the support, man. It's exciting. We wanted to do something that's a little different, than what people are used to in the faith-based film space. People
Right.
are more commonly associated with, very family-friendly movies. Not that this isn't a family-friendly movie, but very, very G-rated and very clean and hallmarky and those types of things.
Okay.
And we really felt that there's so much story to tell in this world, and if we even go a little bit more with the action and suspense type of a approach to the story,
Uh,
you can really start to visualize so much more for the audience. And when this idea came to me by a friend of mine
uh,
who wrote the screenplay, his name is Josh Strakowski. He came to me over 10 years ago. So this has been a long time coming for
dang,
us.
it has been a long time. Wow.
And he came to me with this really simple nugget of an idea. And he said, "Hey, I had this flash in my head of people running through cornfields in Indiana, being
Wow.
chased by people with guns, and they were carrying the Bible." And it just provoked that immediate question: what if the Bible was illegal? And so we've been trying to shepherd this project for, like I said, for 10 years. And we're
Yeah.
so excited that it's finally not only finished, but coming to theaters July 17th.
Wow. It took 10 years for all this. That's amazing. Man,
Yeah.
and I guess because you had other things going on, right? Like your own, things you were starring in, other films you were in, and so on. But and that's one thing too, is what I like is films that really take their time. So like knowing you guys took your time with this, it wasn't just something let's rush it and get it out there. It was like, look, if we're gonna really put this out there, we want to make sure it's good. It has a great message in it, and just everything's carefully preceded in the way that's going to come out. And so I feel like this is really was worth the time, right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was kind of a combination of um we needed to spend a lot of time developing the story, but then also when I look back, I see God's hand all over the entire process,
Oh yeah.
in that um, we tried to get this movie off the ground in 2015.
Oh, you
And
did.
we had a really big push for it. We even started casting, and
Oh
we
wow.
thought we were going to be shooting that fall, and
Yeah.
the funding fell through. We had to kick it to 2016, and it was just year after year we kept having to kick the can down the road, so to speak. And for years that was very frustrating.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I see so many reasons behind that. First and foremost, I don't think our culture was ready
Oh,
for
I
a
see.
movie like this years ago.
Yeah.
When we would talk to people and say, "Hey, what if the Bible is illegal?" They got so caught up in the fact that, well, that'll never happen in the United States, that they never really took a chance to get into the script.
Okay.
Whereas now you propose that question to people, and they stop for a second and they say that it's not too far from reality. That could
That's
happen.
true. That's
And
very
it
true.
and it allows people to get into the story, because this is not a movie about we need to protect religious freedom, or we need to stop the persecution from coming, or whatever.
Mhm.
This was honestly an exploration. In the depths of my heart, I wanted to know for myself, how would I respond in this situation? How
Right.
would someone who's not a believer in Jesus respond to this situation? How
Interesting.
does that simple question impact the entire community of people?
Wow.
And it really created this captivating story that when people see the film, they'll be able to explore different characters and how they respond. all wrapped in this very thrilling tale.
Wow. Man, I can't wait to see it because yeah, that's really true. At that time in 2015 and 16, like you said, it probably wasn't ready for this film. That's why God was pushing it back. But now
Yeah,
that we're at right now, we could see that, yeah, it could happen down the road. The way things are in the world right now, I could definitely see that.
exactly.
And I'm glad that
Absolutely.
now this is really going to be an impactful film to be like, look, we're kind of in this going towards that direction. Like, what would happen if this happened like next year or a few years from now?
Right. And part of it too is I'm not simply just looking at the United States, but I'm looking at the other all across the world.
All the world.
There are parts of the world right now, and China, North Korea, India, where the Bible is illegal. It
Oh, that's
is
true. Yeah,
you're a criminal if you are a Christian,
that's true.
and people have to live under persecution and fear of death, fear of imprisonment, fear of separation from their families.
That's true.
And and when I see people's response to that type of oppression, I see joy. I see vibrant faith. I see this commitment to their faith,
Mm,
and has so deeply convicted and challenged me
mm.
that I believe that this movie could be the spark
Yeah,
of a movement in our country to get serious about our faith, and for those who may not even believe in the Lord,
mm,
maybe they would become curious for the first time.
yeah,
Maybe they would become curious enough to just pick up the Bible and see what it has to say.
yeah,
We're living in a society right now where everyone is trying to redefine what is true,
mm,
and the whole concept of objective morality and
mm.
objective truth is something that people just want to kick to the curb.
That's true. Yeah,
And
I
and
agree.
we the filmmakers, we desire to bring everybody back to the source of truth, which is the Bible,
Yeah.
and cause people to become curious maybe for the first time.
Wow. And and now that you mentioned that, it's very interesting how, like you said, around the world, there are people getting persecuted just for having the Bible in their hand, even believing in Jesus. And 2 weeks ago, I went to when I was at church, one of the pastors was like, if here we are in the United States and we have the freedom to read the Bible, but then there's people around the world that are getting persecuted left and right just for having this. And here, us being here in the United States, we sometimes, I mean, not saying him, but just people and sometimes in general may not even read it as much, not even take advantage of it as much. And the devil will just be like, you have this gold right here in front of you, the
Right.
precious, and you guys are not even taking advantage of it. And here people around the world wish they could have an hour or two just to read this Bible. And here for us, we'd see it as, when I get to it, when, my convenience. It's like, man, this is the time to just get into it because what happens if it does happen in the US?
Exactly. And I think to your point, a lot of what we're seeing with the apathy that you see towards the Word of God
Mhm.
is because people just haven't taken the time to see what it has to say,
Yeah.
to spend time reading it. And I could just speak from personal experience. When I in my teenage years, when I dug into God's Word to see if I truly believe what these words have to say,
Mhm.
it transformed my life.
Yeah.
And I've heard story after story of people who pick up the Bible and sometimes out of a desire to disprove the Bible or disprove God's existence. And
Yeah.
in fact, what happens is their life is transformed and changed, and they become a believer and they're set on fire for God.
Yeah.
But it's because the Word of God is living and active. It's alive. It has the power to change your life because
Yeah.
it's the source of truth. It's the source of hope. And I find it so interesting that John chapter 1, Jesus is described as the Word. He's
Yeah.
not described simply as God in human flesh. He's described
Right.
as the Word.
The word.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the fact that when Jesus spoke the universe into existence, he used his word,
Yep.
and it's just something that I've desired for so long after trying to shepherd this movie to completion. I desire people to come into contact with that reality that there
Yep.
is a God who created you, who loves you, and he's given himself to you through his word. If
Yep.
you would just simply pick it up and experience it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's an incredible, and God's love is something that us humans can never comprehend the
Right.
mind feeling of that. And I remember us. like I still experience it, but it's just like it does not compare to the human love. It's a certain love that you're just like, man, it just floods you. It just makes you realize like how can this creator who created the heavens and the earth and the universe and everything in it love me more than that?
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? And send his own son
Exactly.
to die on the cross just for me. Like, what other God out there would do that? Die for you. I've
Yeah.
never heard of
It
another God that died for you out of love.
exactly. And not only did he die for us, but it's the I mean Philippians chapter 2 so perfectly phrases it where God emptied himself,
Mhm.
became the very thing that he created,
Yep.
which the humility in that I think is lost on our society because I mean it would be the equivalent of like of you and me becoming an ant or a fly or just something so humbling,
Mm.
and Jesus emptied his divine of everything that he was, the rights that he had, everything that he was experiencing in glory,
Yeah.
to become his own creation,
Wow.
to fulfill the law, to do the thing that we could not do,
Mm.
only just to go to a brutal death and pay for the sins of the world. Like that, there is no greater story in all of
Nope.
humanity, and that's what we tried very diligently to bring that to life in Disciples in the Moonlight.
That's awesome. Man, when you mention it, that there's a book called Crazy Love by Francis Chan.
Right? Yeah.
Have you read that one?
Yes.
That's amazing, right? And now that you
Yeah.
mention it just like that with Jesus, the way he poured him, it just that's what makes you realize, like, yeah, like how Jesus just pretty much he gave up his rights in heaven just to be here on earth, just to have that with us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He gave up his glory in heaven just to be here on earth, just to have that intimacy with
Yeah.
us. Yeah, it's amazing.
Exactly.
Now, Brad, I actually want to go back to like the beginning of your story of how you started or how you became a Christian, but also how you started wanting to get into the film and acting. You want to share a brief of that if you like?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I've been a follower of Jesus since I was 5 years old.
Wow. Okay.
5 years old is a big year for me because I came face to face with the reality that my sin had separated me from a holy and righteous God.
Wow.
I grew up in a Christian home, and so the gospel was not. It was very normal for us to hear about Jesus and what he did for us.
Hmm.
But at 5 years old, I realized that if I was to die that day, and I would be separated from him for all of eternity because of my sin,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to start that relationship with him. And
Wow.
but 5 years old was also
5 years.
uh, 5 years old was the first time that I saw a family approved version of the movie Back to the Future.
Oh, one of
And
my favorites, brother. Yes.
yeah, and so it was a big year because it was being born again, but
Uh,
at the same time, it was this realization that I want to make movies when I get older, and so it's been a long time journey for me, just exploring the different gifts and talents that God has given me, and seeing how I could use that for His glory. And it really, I had a big turning point in my life when I was 18. I had entered a short film into a statewide arts competition
oh, you
here in
did? Okay.
Indiana, where I live, and it was about my coming to faith in Christ.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up winning first place in the state of
Oh,
Indiana
wow.
for
First
that
place,
video.
huh? Congrats. Yeah.
And the thing that was so mind blowing about the experience is that a janitor peeked his head in while my film was playing at the award ceremony, and he gave his life to Christ.
Oh, man.
And it was like in
So
that moment my entire life changed because I wanted to go out to LA and follow the dream of becoming an actor, director,
right.
and just making movies and all these different types of things. And then all of a sudden it changed into what would it look like if I took the gospel of Jesus and proclaimed it through the art of film.
Mm.
And it was like God was saying, imagine what I could do through you if you just be obedient and faithful to me. And so that took me on a completely different journey. Got my undergrad at Ball State University for film and
Oh,
video
okay.
production.
Wow.
And then I was just trying to be obedient and faithful.
Mhm.
And Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And little by little, God has opened up so many different opportunities for me um, to act and direct, and it has really kind of culminated in this project, Disciples in the Moonlight, where I'm doing both,
Yeah.
and but also doing something I'm so passionate about.
That's incredible. So did you ever feel like when you wanted to go to LA and that did you say it did work out or it didn't work out for LA to move out there?
No, so well, the interesting thing is that my freshman year of college, I was selected to direct a short film to feature some of the acting talent from the theater department,
Oh, okay.
and we went out to LA to do a showcase. And
Oh,
so this
okay.
was like my first big opportunity to be out in LA
Oh,
and
nice.
see like, can I make it out here?
Yeah.
Do I
Get a
have what
feel
it
of it.
takes and all these things? And I can't really explain it any other way than it was a intense move of the Holy Spirit on my life to say,
Wow.
this is not what I have for you. I want you to stay in Indiana.
Mm,
I want you to be faithful to me and tell the stories that I want you to tell.
wow.
And it was again another shifting turning point in my life,
Yeah, I can
um,
imagine.
and it's been fun. It's been funny, being involved in the feature film industry for a long time now. Every time I'm blessed and honored to be on a film set and I'm meeting people for the first time, they ask me, "So, what part of LA are you from?" And I
Is that
say, "Well,
right? As
actually, I live in Indianapolis, Indiana," and they like, "Where's Indianapolis?" They don't like get it.
Yeah, you
Uh,
threw them off on that one. Huh? They're like, what?
yeah. So,
Oh,
but
man.
that's just a testimony to God's faithfulness and His grace in my life, and
Wow.
His favor of giving me these opportunities.
That's cool. And I feel like because God knows your desire of your heart, where you wanted to have LA some part of your life, I believe at times in your during your career, you've gone out there to help with a film. You've gone out there to take
Absolutely.
family vacation, or mostly for work. But at least He gave you
Yeah.
those opportunities to still go out there and work in LA. You know what I mean? Just to say, hey, I know you wanted to live out here, but here's some opportunities to work out there too.
Yeah, yeah, it's been really cool. I make it out there about twice a year now for
Oh, do
different
you? Okay,
projects,
cool.
and
Nice,
have a lot of friends there who
nice.
are helping me along this journey of trying to make movies.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I want to go back to the Future because for me, I'm into filmmaking as well. And yes, that film has done it for me. When I was young and I saw the film, I was like, there's people that they watch the film, they're like, oh, it was good, whatever. But for me, I look at the details of the directing, I look at the
Yeah,
details of the acting, the soundtrack. I mean, the music is just incredible. Just the
yeah,
way that it goes with the part of it, like you mentioned, it goes with the emotions, right? The feeling of when you hear of or when you watch the film and you see those emotions of like how they're acting, like Marty and Doc at the clock tower when they were about to go. That music, you're like, oh man, it's getting intense. I love this. It's like,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, what's amazing about a film like that is, I don't know when they were making it, they realized that they were creating something that was, going to change film history and all these things. And you got
yeah,
Robert Zemeckis and Alan Silvestri and Steven Spielberg, like these titans in our industry of these incredible artists. But the thing that I think the reason that it works so well and has captivated the minds of so many people like us is it was really, when you get down to the story, it's it's about a young man trying to find where he belongs in this world,
mm,
and yet it's wrapped in this really fun and exciting mechanism of telling a story,
yeah,
and that really has shaped a lot of the types of movies that I aspire to make, and
wow,
really set up a lot of why Disciples in the Moonlight was so attractive to me as a filmmaker, because the story of Disciples in the Moonlight is really simple, like Back to
okay,
the Future is simple. It Disciples in the Moonlight really is just about how would you respond.
hmm,
Um, Yet we wrapped it in this very, it's a heist movie. It's got action and thrill and all these different types of things.
okay,
And a lot of times people can get caught up in the mechanism of telling a story and
okay.
forsake the heart of the story. And I think
Hard.
that's what made Back to the Future so compelling, was you're rooting for Marty.
Right,
You
right,
want to see him succeed. You want him to overcome those mountains in front of him,
yeah,
and yet you just get caught up in the emotion of it,
yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, and obviously the artistic excellence of that movie still holds up to this day. I mean, it's
Oh, it does.
decades old now, and it's still just incredible.
Awesome. And just because you're a filmmaker as well, which filmmakers out there, like directors that you've looked up to growing up, or as of now, has it been Robert Zemeckis? Has it been Spielberg?
So Robert Zemeckis was definitely the beginning of this whole thing, and
Yeah,
I've
same.
always continued to look up to his work.
Yeah.
He's a mastermind. In my teenage years, it was M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, no
Before his movie,
way.
yeah,
Same, man.
before his movies got little
Golly.
weird, like in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
But yeah, he
Yeah.
when I first saw Signs,
Oh,
I was just like, it's still
yeah.
to this day is one of my favorite all
It
time
is.
movies.
Same. Same.
His patience of storytelling and the way he makes you lean in
Yeah.
really shaped my um my developing of my talent.
Yeah.
Um, and then Christopher Nolan would be the other one that
Oh, he's good too.
I look at the stuff that he does, and yeah, it's on a much grander scale. But even in his earlier work, he speaks through the camera, and he speaks with such determination and willingness to explore emotions that you're not used to, and his timing is amazing.
Yeah.
And so there's just all of those guys along my
Yeah.
journey have shaped the way that I perceive story and the way that my brain works. And so it's so cool to just be able to be inspired by other artists.
Yeah. And that's so amazing that you and I have the compare in the interest of the same directors. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Robert Zemeckis, M. Night Shyamalan, and it's like, yeah. And Signs has done the same thing for me. Signs the
yeah,
film. When I watched that, I was just like Mel Gibson's acting in it, the soundtrack of that. I was just
yeah,
like, man, like if I ever wanted to do a mystery film kind of thriller,
yeah,
I mean, he would be the guy I look up to, like,
yeah.
Well,
And
that's
what was fun for me making Disciples in the Moonlight was I there's a lot of nostalgic Easter egg nods that I make to some of my
oh no
favorite
way.
moments. So like there's some Back to the Future,
Oh, there is.
call
Oh,
outs in terms of like the style, the moments that we chose.
yeah.
There's some Signs references
Oh wow.
sprinkled throughout, some Inception references. So like
Oh,
I
Inception
tried to
as
like
well,
honor
huh?
these. Yeah, I tried to honor these men who
Wow.
um, really just shaped this young kid from Indiana.
Oh man, I can't wait to see this film to see that. I'm gonna be like, oh look, there's a bit of signs in there. Back to the Future and yeah, Inception. That's really cool, man. Before we close on the podcast, I just want to know like where do you like from July 17th with this premiere happening? Like, do you guys have material that you can like if someone doesn't know the Lord, is there a website they can go to and read about it and see more about this film? If you'd like to share more.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so excited about that because this is one of those movies that was never we never just wanted to make a movie to simply entertain people. We
Okay.
wanted to make a movie that would cause you to want to go deeper in your faith.
Mm.
And so we've been so blessed to have ministries jumping on board
Really?
our
That's awesome.
our team, and that's continuing to grow day by day. And so at the appropriate time, once we get a little closer to July 17th, if people go to disciplesinthemoonlightmovie.com, we're going to have resources there to
Okay.
encourage people to go deeper in their faith, with discussion guides and things like that that can really just un unveil some of the truth that's woven throughout the story that we don't spend time uh exposing in the dialogue or something like that,
Right.
but it's there in the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
There's so many scripture references that we used as cornerstones throughout the story, and those are really going to be appropriately able to be consumed by the audience after the film.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so yeah, disciplesinthemoonlightmovie.com is the best place to go for that. And we'll be posting some of those materials as well on social media.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging people right now to go buy your tickets early. Tickets are on sale right now. You could go buy
Oh,
right
awesome, guys.
now.
There you go.
Go to fathomevents.com, and
Okay.
all you need to do is select the date that you want to go to the theater.
Okay.
Just put in your zip code, and it will show you all the theaters in your area
Okay.
where the movie is playing. We're in just over 1,000 theaters across the country right now, and
Wow.
we're so
Nice.
excited about that.
That's awesome.
Um, and what we really want to see happen is that if people vote with their dollars and tell the theaters and they tell Hollywood this is the types of content
There
that
you
we
go.
want,
Yeah.
it gives us more opportunities to create these
Great
stories for
one.
people to be blessed by.
Yep. And I pray for that. I pray that this film will really get Hollywood to see that. They'd be like, wow,
Thank you.
this film did good, and they let's bring out another one. I
Yeah,
don't know if you know Brock Heasley.
I
Brock.
do.
Yeah, so I interviewed him as well. So the shift,
Yeah,
I just had a Zoom call with him 2 days ago, and I told him I
yeah,
was going to interview you. He's like, "Oh, tell him I said hi."
yeah.
So
Just met him recently, like a month or so ago. So it was good to finally meet him in person.
awesome. Yeah, what'd you think of the shift? It was good, right?
It's amazing.
And
I'm
I
so
was
excited
excited.
about people like Brock, and there are others in the independent film space that are stepping out of the norm and telling
Yeah.
some new and exciting stories. So it's exciting to be a part of that.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying and making these kind of films, that's why I'm encouraging a lot of people to go see Disciples in the Moonlight, The Shift, and also
Yes,
Unsung Hero. I also
yes,
interviewed Richard Ramsey. I interviewed him
yeah,
about a month ago. That film was incredible, true story,
yeah.
what they went through.
Incredible true story. Incredible.
Very, I was just so inspired when I left that. I was like,
Yeah,
man, what God did in that family's lives, just
incredible.
a lot of heartache and struggle, but they made it to
Yeah.
the end.
Hmm.
But well, I do want to ask, knowing I'm in the film as well, but not as much. But what do you have for those viewers that want to get into film? Because for me, I still like I talked to when I spoke to Brock the other day. I needed some encouragement. I just said, I feel
Yeah,
like I'm at a little dry spell right now and where I'm at in my life. And so he gave me some words of encouragement about, where I can go. And I was like, yeah, but I'm like, maybe it's not just me. Maybe other people that are
yeah,
that passion and they're just like, well, I need some push. So what do you have
yeah.
to say just for
Well,
wanting
I could tell you that the dry spells are not a singular thing for any individual person. It's so common.
yeah,
Um, I I experienced a lot of years of waiting.
really?
Um,
Wow.
not just with Disciples in the Moonlight, but
Okay.
there was a stretch of years where I was convinced that my career was over and I was going to
Really?
have to
Oh,
find a new
wow.
occupation. Like it was just there was nothing happening,
Oh,
and what God showed me in those years was that it was a time of shaping in my heart, a time of God pruning my heart of selfish ambition and idolatry that should not be there. And it was an opportunity for me to press into, okay, God, if film was taken away from me, if I had to find something else to do with this life, if that's how you're most glorified, that's what I want to do. And being willing to surrender all my dreams and aspirations down before Him. And it was a big turning point in my life, because now to this day, anything that I do, I have to have this open-handed posture before the Lord of saying, this is not mine, this is yours. And if you take it away tomorrow, if that's how you're most glorified, then I'm going to serve you no matter what you have for me. And and I think the important thing for all of us artists to remember is that this is a journey.
mm,
Um, and the final destination should not be a singular project or a singular milestone moment or whatever. It's a process of we should be constantly trying to seek, how can we tell stories better? How
mm.
can we become more like our creator, our master storyteller, God, and tell stories the way that He does?
Wow.
And I think that that's something that should be a lifelong pursuit, and it's going to come in various shapes and sizes, and it's going to come in different waves of time too. And God has just shown me time and time and time again that I'm simply a steward, and uh, a lot of times I can get caught up in the dream of and the passion of what I love to do, that sometimes that's even been put over, my call to be a husband and a father. And that I need to get my priorities right. It's the Lord first, it's my wife, my children, and then my career.
Mm.
And because those are the things that really matters in life. Like leaving leaving a legacy of your family it's so undervalued in our society today. And so my encouragement to you and to other artists is to be patient. And in those times, like I read the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis,
Oh man, yeah.
and you see how many times it says, "And the Lord was with Joseph." yet he was, in terrible circumstances. But God was preparing him for something he was not even aware of for many years. And
That's true.
and so yeah, I think that it's just a question of like day by day, are we willing to surrender and say, okay, Lord, what do you have for me today? It may not be what the passion of the thing that I want to do, but what do you have for me today?
Mm. Awesome, Brett. You hit it right there on that was money. Couldn't say that better, man. That was awesome. Yeah, that encouraged me because it's true. Like, real quick before we end, just lately I've been saying, well, God, like, when am I gonna have that break? And my brother's in LA, right? Well, he's in La Mirada, California, filming, doing some
Yeah,
projects. But I'm like, please, like, I'm like, I don't want to sound like desperate, but I was like, hey, if you do a film or something, like, don't forget me, like, he's like,
yeah,
I won't, don't worry. But then I'm like, but it's true. Like, am I putting that more of the focus than really God? And then what I have going on in this moment right now, and then God will provide the rest, instead of being so
absolutely.
caught up in the future where I'm not even there yet. It's okay
Yeah,
to think on the future and
sure,
plan,
absolutely.
but if you're too consumed with that and not, well, did you spend time with me today? Meaning God, did you,
Hmm.
pray with, did you have that instead of thinking about all that?
Yeah,
So it's true, very
yep,
true, Brett. Thank you for sharing that. And I really did.
absolutely.
Well, thank you, Brett, for coming on Rhythm and Roads podcast. I really wish your film the best, Disciples in the
Thank you.
Moonlight. I look forward to seeing it, taking my girlfriend to see it. I told her about it already. Yeah, and I'll definitely keep posting, the advertisements for that, the trailer,
Thank you, man. It means a
posters,
lot.
word out. And then this episode will definitely be out sometime this weekend. So I'll send you
Cool.
the email on that. Did you want me to email you directly or just to your assistant? I think her name was Angela.
Yeah, our publicist, that'd be great.
Yeah, Senator. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Brett, for your time. I really appreciate it.
All
And all
right, man.
right, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.